Whether it be navigating a trap-filled dungeon, fighting off a vicious gang of gnolls, or negotiating with the local evil regent, all actions have consequences, and they also have rewards. Today's episode, we'll talk a little bit about how to reward your players in 5th edition.
I'm Eddie, yes.
And I'm Eugene. We are
the Middle-Aged Barbarians.
All right, so I'll be honest with all of y'all. I'm not happy. I had this huge script written out, and I took the time to look at all the numbers and bring in the graphs and do little examples for everybody. And the evil producer that's sitting over there mocking me right now said, "No, this sucks. This is boring." But you know what? He was probably right, because it was a little bit boring. I know not everybody's like a math geek and likes all that stuff. So basically today I want to we'll reduce it down and we'll open it up a bit. And we'll talk about how different reward systems kind of work and what you're going to be rewarding and stuff like that.
Yeah, part of the theme or the thing with this new edition is that it's a little bit more open-ended. So sometimes getting to really, really strict numbers kind of breaks a little bit of the spirit, but it's actually your choice, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's the fun part of doing it before. Anyway, I digress. There's two types of main rewards in Dungeons & Dragons. Correct me if I'm wrong. Experience points and the loot, the money, the gold, the magic, the treasure. Good?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, yeah, gold converts into items or doesn't.
I don't know. Yes, it does. It does. Magically.
Magically converts into it because that's part of the kind of the issues we've seen. Are there prices in 5th edition for magic items?
That's a whole nother argument we can have later.
Okay, we'll have it later.
All right, so let's start off first with XP. You want the numbers? Just go into the DMG. You can find all your graphs. I'll try to sum it up as best I can. Monsters have CRs, challenge ratings, and each challenge rating is worth an XP value, okay? So basically just figure out how many players you have, what level they are, and then budget your CR and make fights, and that's it. That's like how you make an encounter, basically. But why do we want XP? That's what I want to try to focus more on. What is the XP for? Why do we want it so much?
So what does it represent? Because XP is kind of abstract, but it's actually the development of your character. Like, we were just talking about that. It's kind of like going to school. You're studying, you're learning your majors, your minors, and you get new skills when you're growing up. This is kind of the growth of your players.
Yeah, I mean, you learn about yourself in the middle of a skirmish. You learn how to move your body a little bit better, how to properly angle the sword a little better. Hey, you get a +1 proficiency when you level up.
Exactly.
So we can get XP from fights. We can get XP from encounters. Let's start with fights.
Yeah, because one of the main questions we kind of have with some newer players is, do I get the XP if I don't kill the opponent, which is a little bit violent in my opinion. I mean, it's a fight, but you can solve it in other ways, can't you?
I mean, you could. Technically, you could. So then you could have was it that parlay?
A parlay, a diplomatic solution. I mean, I'm a fan of doing that sort of stuff. Like, you just talk to the big bad and you bluff that you're more powerful and the opposing army surrenders. You won the encounter. You don't need to shed a lot of blood.
So you can get XP from killing the enemy. You can get XP from talking with the enemy and not fighting. Would you get XP from just avoiding the fight altogether?
That would be interesting. I think that would be more on a case-by-case basis because sometimes...
I can just imagine you walking in the dungeon, opening a door. There's 4 or 5 monsters and nope. You just close the door and walk away.
Yeah, I would say no. I would say that in this case it would be rather... If the part of the focus of what you have to do is escape or move around, I think avoiding the encounters could award not the full amount, but you can award, which is kind of what the DM has to manage in a way.
Right. I mean, another situation that would be somewhat similar would be maybe you didn't kill them all. Maybe you had to just flee, like in Final Fantasy. You're hitting that runaway button. because, you know, everybody's dropping left and right, and you're not going to be able to defeat the enemy, but you survived. Do I learn from that? Is that learning transferred into XP?
I would say most certainly, because I'm thinking of all my mages that have my dumb friends have done very badly, and I'm the last one standing with just a dagger and no spells. Yeah, I think it would be wise to charge with my dagger at the last enemies, which I have done as well, and won sometimes weirdly. But I digress. Yeah, so XP works in that way. There's also some other sort of soft things or soft challenges that we have that are not combat.
Only like a skill challenge?
Yeah, how would you work with that?
Well, see, then you'd have to figure out if the skill challenge presents a risk. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, in the DMG it mentions don't reward a skill challenge or an ability challenge. Like, I don't know, you have to jump across this bridge or like a collapsed bridge or I don't know, some kind of a puzzle if there's no risk of failing or something negative happening. If it's just like, oh, I try to pick a lock, well, you're probably not going to get XP from picking a lock. But if you only have 30 seconds to disarm a trap that's going to flood the room or make everybody just like burned up in a crazy fire accident, then I think, yeah, that would be something you would reward. Kind of like working under pressure or disarming traps. Then you'd have to decipher, well, is this a hard, is this a soft encounter? What's the DC levels that I'm putting against the players? And then that in turn would give you like your reward.
So mechanically, you kind of give him a challenge rating to these sort of things, or is it a different reward system?
If I'm not mistaken, what the book says, you just determine whether it's a hard or an easy challenge, and then you give them like 50 points or 100 points, and you try to base it off the budget for XP encounter building that they have for monsters. So you kind of like try to make the traps like monsters or the skill challenges, depending on the difficulty.
Oh, I get it. So, so XP works in that way. And what happens when you level up? What does leveling up represent? Which is something that sometimes a couple of people have asked us about. What does leveling up mean?
Leveling up should be, in my opinion, just a representation of what you've managed to learn during your adventures, during your investigations and combats and everything. It shows your growth within a certain field or a couple different fields if you're multi-classing and you're learning different things at the same time, which is interesting because I think a multi-class character, while richer in option, will probably never be as strong as just a hyper-focused player in one class. But even then, there's also like variants on XP. There's people that you have to use like just a basic XP by level upgrading and all that, or you can do like a milestone XP instead of XP to level up. I don't know if I'm making any sense to you. Like instead of having to kill 10 monsters and getting all that XP like currency, when you reach certain parts of the story, or you manage to accomplish certain challenges, then that would be like a milestone. And then that would give you the equivalency of leveling up or something.
For instance, let's say something like, narratively speaking, let's say before I go to fight with the big bad, I fight with their lieutenant. And if I defeat them, I level up.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe you can set up some sort of stuff like that. Or, yeah, we've been like playing a couple of sessions and level up automatically.
Or maybe you manage to diplomatically barter peace between two rivaling kingdoms. I mean, that's not an easy feat. You had to put in a lot of work to do it, and maybe little individual skill challenges just doesn't compensate the magnitude of the ordeal. So then you can just do a level, everybody levels up. I think that's something you would have to work out at the beginning, if you're going to be using XP or if it's just going to be like a story, narrative-driven leveling up system.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah, because we don't want to, that's not much of a rules-as-written, not using points, experience points like currency. The default is using them as currency, but you can do some other sort of different things. Yeah, perhaps your story doesn't have that much combat. It's more of a social thing, so.
Yeah, so it would be more, I think, more logical to, in certain important breaks during the story, level up.
Yeah.
So the next, I think we should just talk about the other reward, the moolah, the cash, the magical sword that you pull from the proverbial stone.
Or do you pay someone to craft it? Can you pay someone to craft it?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Yes, you can. You can pay. If you have the money, it all works.
Yeah, but so how does money work?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Because
we-
I had written like 5 pages about how money works. No. Can I get a little geeky?
Sure. Go ahead, man.
DMG is going to divide it into 2 main groups. You have an individual treasure for when you have just like one encounter with the monster, or you have the horde treasure from defeating the big bad, from defeating the evil dragon, or maybe a place where all these monsters have just like thrown the loot and gold and treasures that they have no use for, so they just leave it in their lair and you
grab
find it there. And it's really straightforward. Again, I mean, the DMG has everything in little tables and random dice generations. Usually, individuals are coins. You get coppers, you get silvers, you get gold, you get this other weird thing that I never remember what it's called.
Electrum.
Electrums, platinum, fancy platinum pieces.
But what can you do with the money? I mean, because once you're a little bit geared up, money kind of becomes superfluous, or what can you do with money? I mean, obviously in real life, more money,
More money, more problems.
more problems. Yeah, like Notorious B.I.G., RIP.
Yeah, that's who I'm referring. No, 5th edition, I mean, you guys can feel free to argue with me in the comments. It seems like everybody's underpowered, especially if you compare it to previous editions. I mean, you could have all the money in the world, but you're not going to find a +1 sword, or you shouldn't maybe until you're like level 5. I remember handing those things out like candies before.
Now, no.
Like, you get a +1 bastard sword, you get a +1 bastard sword, and now you don't.
But can you, is there, well, I'm guessing DM-wise, you can mechanically say, oh, you can buy followers, you can buy stuff like that. I mean, there's not like a specific mechanic, but you can do that sort of thing. Like, oh, I'll donate my wealth to the poor and be popular that way.
You could. I mean, it all depends on how you design the world around the magic. I'd go another step forward, just like XP, and then I'd wonder, well, what are the rewards for? What is the money for?
That's my question, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I mean, if you want to look at it at like a mechanical level, I think the money is for leveling up your powers and gears and trying to keep on a par with the monsters and challenges you're going to be facing. I mean, you will eventually need that +1 sword, probably just not like us old people are used to getting it earlier.
Oh, yeah, I remember. The sort of things that, yeah, like candy, that was me. I gave up magic items.
Man. You're not going to find a +5 Vorpal sword in this game.
It's a more...
That'd be cool, though. But there's also like other options. Maybe you don't give out gold as treasure. Maybe, we had talked about this before. Maybe the treasure is a component for a big spell that you need. Or maybe the reward isn't even to purchase something. Maybe the reward is part of the actual narrative of the story. Maybe you need to find the gem that's been infused with the soul of the caster of aeons gone by and boogity boogity boogity.
Or maybe the money you needed to sponsor some political thing that will give you a reward that you need. For instance, maybe you use the money to buy a pass to go across the mountain because otherwise the king's men will fight you if you don't pay for the pass. So money can be used in that way, not just... Yeah, it's a little bit different. And it gives you more options, but in giving you more options, you get a little bit lost, I think. So we'd like you to think a little bit before you just give out the money so players can see their options.
You also have to be a little bit careful with overpowering them a bit.
Of course.
You hand out too many +1 swords, and apparently you're going to have overpowered players. I don't know.
Or maybe they have more money than the king, which would make sense.
That would be weird.
That would be pretty weird. They're just using their platinum coins as armor.
That'd be nice. That'd be fancy.
That'd be a little bit fancy. Yeah. Oh yeah, I have so many coins. I just melt them on top of my armor.
Like the human disco balls just walking around.
That would be pretty funny. Yeah. So yeah, think about them. Go a little bit beyond the mechanics and see how it fits in the world, because sometimes it's just a little bit ambiguous, and it's better to keep them on the... But what happens if you already made them too powerful? What can you do?
Wow, that is a good question. We'd probably have to think a little bit about that. Off the top of my head, I say Rust monster.
Awesome.
Just chuck them up against the rust monster. Maybe have somebody steal something from them, and then you can have them adventure to get that back.
That would be pretty cool. Or challenges that don't require the magical thing they give them. Challenges you
Yeah,
just
make their stuff useless.
make their stuff useless in context, not useless per se. Because it's also frustrating. Because remember, this is about fun, so you have to keep a very delicate balance sometimes.
Well, I mean, what if you get an evil wizard to disenchant their stuff? I can't pronounce the spell, but there's something disjunction
Disjunction, yeah.
that can just wipe out all the magic, just nullify their power, make them work for it again, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe it's an adventure, get a restoration. Everything is a point for adventure, and just apply that way. Just don't be mean, because otherwise, if you get too powerful, we get into what we've called the Goku syndrome, I guess, where each week everybody is the biggest baddest that nobody knew about, but it's like the biggest bad that's more powerful than everybody else.
Of course, yeah.
And you keep fighting that. That gets kind of annoying.
Lame. Yeah, it's a little lame.
So yeah, think about it and think rewards in that way, in that balance, because you cannot give too much, but if you give them too little, it's frustrating not having the basics to survive as a player. So
I agree.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just to quickly summarize, all the information is in the DMG. You can look up how to give out XP, budget your encounters, and even decide how you're going to level them up. You can survive an encounter and still get XP. If you decide that, you can get it from killing them, you can get it from skill challenges. Just make sure you balance out to your party level and how many you got in the party. Rewards.
Yeah, remember, the rewards are part of the fun. They should not become the protagonist, but also you cannot put them by the wayside. And if you make some mistakes, maybe overpowering them, underpowering them, make it part of the adventure and the fun to fix that. Not just decree, no, you no longer have your swords.
Tough. Tough.
That's kind of, tough. No, that doesn't work. Just make it part of the world building. And
Make it exciting.
yeah, make it fun. It's at the end of the day, this is what we're here for, having fun.
All right. So I think next episode we wanted to do like a little bit more in depth on something that we've spoken about before, which would be player archetypes. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, how to engage with everybody and mix and match some of the rewards we've talking about, both mechanical and more of the non-mechanical sort
Storytelling
of
narrative part.
Yeah, exactly.
So as per usual, go ahead, leave a like, subscribe. Any questions, comments, complaints, please leave them below in the comments. And until next time, rage responsibly.
Roll the dice!